Hi, boys and girls. I miss you so much. Last week it rained a lot down in LA and it snowed a lot up here in Big Bear. So I thought it was a perfect opportunity to do a science video about the water cycle and different states of water from solid to liquid to gas. So a little later, you're going to be doing an experiment. You'll need some sort of big bowl. It doesn't have to be glass. It could even just be a pot, but some sort of big bowl, a little dish, hot water or warm water. Make sure you have your family help you. Some ice and some clear saran wrap to go over the bowl. If you don't have saran wrap or plastic wrap at home, you might just want to get like a pot that has a lid. But first, let's go explore the water cycle in the mountains. There are 3 different states of water: liquid, solid, and gas. First, liquid water is what we drink. It's what we see in the oceans and lakes and rivers, and it's actually inside of all living things. Liquid water is what truly allows life to happen on Earth. Next, solid water is water that's been frozen. Usually we think of it as ice. It has to be 32 degrees or below for water to freeze into a solid. Finally, water, when it's in its gas form, we call water vapor. And in nature, it's caused by water absorbing the heat from the sun. The simple parts of the water cycle are evaporation, condensation, precipitation, runoff, and collection, and then the whole thing repeats. Evaporation is the phase of the water cycle when water is warmed and turns into water vapor. And that gas is so light that it floats up into the sky and the atmosphere. The next phase is condensation, and that's when the water vapor that's now floating higher in the atmosphere cools down and turns back into its liquid form. And then it's like little floating water droplets in the sky, and we see them as clouds. The next phase is precipitation, and this is the phase when the floating water droplets get so heavy that they can't float in the sky anymore, so they fall back down to Earth as rain. But if the weather is freezing cold, the liquid water will actually freeze on the way down and fall as snow. Next, runoff. This is when all the precipitation that is landed on Earth runs off as rivers into lakes and oceans. Some of it even soaks into the ground and becomes groundwater. And of course, a lot of it is used by plants and people and animals. Once the water is collected on Earth again, evaporation happens and the cycle is continuous all the time, over and over and over, all the time, all over the world. The simple parts of the water cycle are evaporation, condensation, precipitation, runoff, and collection, and then the whole thing repeats. I found that a great way to remember new vocabulary is to learn it in sign language. So today I'm going to teach you the water cycle in sign language. And you can start with water, and then cycle looks like a circle. Water cycle. Okay, so evaporation looks like a lot like evaporation. You start at the land, rise up and kind of shimmer your fingers a little bit. Evaporation. Condensation, we're going to use the sign for cloud because that's where condensation is taking place. And the vapor is turning back into water in the clouds. Precipitation, we're going to use the sign for rain, which is like this, or snow, which is like this. So we can go rain or snow for precipitation. And then for the runoff, we're going to use water again and kind of send it down a river. Okay, so this is the sign for river. Let's go from the beginning. The water cycle. Evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff. Now that we've learned the different phases of the water cycle, we are going to create a model of the water cycle using these supplies. The large bowl is going to represent Earth's atmosphere. And our small dish is going to represent the dry land on Earth. The ice and the saran wrap lid is going to represent the colder, higher levels of our atmosphere in the sky. And our hot or warm water is going to represent the evaporating lakes and the evaporating oceans. Okay, let's get it set up. First, put your dry land bowl in the middle and pour your warm water around the outside of the bowl. Don't let it get into the bowl though. Then you're going to put saran wrap over the top of it, seal it down so that it will trap the water vapor inside, and double it. Do it both directions to make a nice strong holder for our ice that we're going to put at the top to cool off our atmosphere. And then you can just place a bunch of ice in the middle. You might even want to put the ice into a plastic baggie first, but this will be fine. All right, boys and girls, we have our model set up. We are trapping the water vapor as it rises up in our atmosphere. What's going to happen when it hits the colder, higher levels of the atmosphere? And then what might we find in the bowl in the center, our little dry land bowl? Okay, that's what we're going to find out in 10 minutes. So set a timer for 10 minutes. All right, boys and girls, it's been 10 minutes. Let's see the results. What should have happened is that the water vapor would hit the cold atmosphere, turn back into a liquid, which is the condensation phase, and then rain onto the land. So if this worked, we should have a little rain puddle right here. Let's review the phases of the water cycle one more time. The water cycle: evaporation, condensation, precipitation, and runoff. Your assignments this week are to create the model that we did in the kitchen, draw an illustration of the water cycle and label it. Then, if you're a little older, why don't you research the water cycle and write an informational text explaining each phase. And if you like the way it turns out, email it to me and I'll use it in our next newsletter. And finally, you might want to just have fun researching other water experiments to try at home. Be sure to tell your family all about the water cycle. See you next time.